In one of the world's wealthiest nations, families are choosing between heating their homes and feeding their kids. Sounds unreal, right? But that's the brutal truth of living in the UK in 2025. Behind the headlines and polished news reports, everyday life is unraveling. People with full-time jobs are sleeping in their cars. Students are skipping meals just to pay rent. The NHS, once a global model, is collapsing under its own weight. And the so-called British dream is vanishing before our eyes. You've probably heard things are getting bad, but not like this. From rising crime and failing schools to mental health services that barely function, the problems run deep. This isn't just a rough patch, it's a turning point. And by the end of this video, you'll see why many believe it's worse than ever before. Number 1. The cost of living crisis has deepened. The cost of living in the UK has reached historic highs in 2025, and it's not slowing down. From the weekly grocery shop to energy bills, everything feels more expensive, and that's because it is. Inflation, though not rising as fast as in 2023, has settled at a level that's still painfully high. Essentials like bread, milk, and vegetables have jumped by up to 35% since 2022. Meanwhile, wage growth has stagnated, leaving households with less purchasing power than they had 3 years ago. Families are cutting back on meat, heating, and even internet access just to stay afloat. For many, this isn't just about tightening the belt, it's about survival. The rise in energy prices has forced thousands to choose between heating and eating, especially during harsh winters. Food banks are now seeing queues that stretch around the block, even in middle-income neighbourhoods. A report by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation found that 1 in 5 UK households is now living in deep poverty, with children skipping meals regularly. People who once had stable jobs and steady incomes are now struggling to make rent or pay council tax on time. The emotional toll is equally severe. Constant financial stress is leading to a spike in anxiety, depression, and relationship breakdowns. The idea of saving for a holiday, buying a car, or even having kids feels almost impossible. The middle class is shrinking, and the number of people slipping into working poverty is rising rapidly. Even dual-income households with no kids are reporting that they feel broke before payday. In 2025, simply getting by in the UK feels like a luxury many can no longer afford. Number 2, the housing market is a nightmare. Trying to buy or rent a home in the UK in 2025 feels like playing a game you're set up to lose. House prices have continued to rise, especially in urban areas like London, Manchester, and Bristol. The average home now costs over £300,000, while wages have barely budged. For first-time buyers, saving for a mortgage deposit feels like chasing a moving target. Even a modest one-bedroom flat in Greater London can require a £50,000 deposit, putting homeownership out of reach for most young adults. If you're renting, the situation isn't much better. Rent prices have soared by nearly 20% in the last year alone, with demand massively outstripping supply. Landlords are increasing rents with little regulation, and more people are being served no-fault evictions. For those relying on housing benefits, the gap between what the government offers and actual rent prices is growing wider. Many tenants are living in overcrowded or poorly maintained properties with little power to demand repairs or improvements. Shelter reports that over 250,000 households are now classified as homeless or in temporary accommodation. This housing instability has far-reaching consequences. People are delaying starting families, changing jobs, or even leaving cities they love because they can't afford to stay. The sense of security and belonging that once came with having your own place is disappearing. Even professionals with stable incomes are living with flatmates well into their 30s. The dream of a stable, affordable home has turned into a stressful, uncertain scramble, and for many, there's no clear way out. Number 3, the NHS is cracking under pressure. The National Health Service, once a symbol of British pride, is facing a crisis like never before. In 2025, the system is severely underfunded, overloaded, and understaffed. Patients are now waiting months for GP appointments and over a year for routine surgeries. Even emergency care isn't guaranteed. A&E departments are seeing record wait times, with some patients lying on hospital trolleys for over 24 hours before being admitted. The pandemic-era backlog hasn't just persisted, it's grown, and now nearly 7.8 million people are stuck on waiting lists. The strain on healthcare workers is pushing the system toward collapse. Thousands of nurses and junior doctors have walked away due to burnout and low pay. Those who stay are often juggling impossible caseloads with little support. Morale is at an all-time low. In many areas, ambulance crews take hours to respond to 999 calls. People are increasingly turning to private healthcare, even if it means going into debt just to get a diagnosis or begin treatment. The idea of free care feels more like a fading memory than a functioning reality. This health crisis impacts more than just physical well-being. Delays in treatment are leading to more advanced illnesses, avoidable deaths, and a growing distrust in the system. Mental health care is no better. Many patients are waiting months just for an initial assessment. Parents of sick children, cancer patients, and the elderly are all finding themselves stuck in limbo, waiting for help that may come too late. The NHS, once considered a safety net, is now leaving millions feeling abandoned, and the consequences are heartbreaking. Number 4. Public transport is unreliable and overpriced. Getting around the UK in 2025 has become a daily battle, especially for commuters who rely on trains and buses. Public transport is now seen less as a public service and more as a luxury burden. Train tickets have risen to unprecedented prices, with some monthly passes costing over £600. Yet despite the cost, the service continues to decline. Delays, cancellations, and strikes have become part of everyday life. It's not uncommon to wait 40 minutes for a train that never arrives, or to be packed into carriages like sardines with no air conditioning. Strikes are more frequent due to ongoing disputes over pay and conditions for railway and bus workers. With the negotiations stalling, the disruptions have become routine, especially during peak hours. Even when services do run, they're often overcrowded, under-maintained, and prone to mechanical issues. In rural areas, the situation is even worse. Entire communities are effectively cut off, with buses running only a few times a day, or not at all. For many, owning a car is no longer a luxury, but a necessity for survival, adding another layer of financial stress. This crumbling system is not just inconvenient, it's a barrier to economic mobility and quality of life. People are turning down job opportunities because commuting is too unreliable or expensive. Students miss classes. Parents struggle with school runs. The dream of a connected, modern Britain is unravelling, one broken timetable at a time. Public transport was once a lifeline. Now it's a source of daily anxiety, draining both time and money without delivering on its basic promise, getting people where they need to go. Number 5. Crime rates are quietly rising. In 2025, many people across the UK are feeling less safe, and not without reason. While official reports may downplay the issue, violent crime, particularly knife-related offences, has increased significantly in urban centres. Cities like London, Birmingham and Manchester are seeing a surge in street violence, with more young people becoming both victims and offenders. The availability of knives, the collapse of community services, and rising social tensions have all contributed to this growing threat. Youth crime in particular is climbing, fueled by economic despair and lack of opportunity. Police forces are struggling to respond. Funding cuts, staff shortages, and low morale have left many areas with fewer patrols and longer response times. In some cases, victims of burglary or assault are told no officer is available to investigate for several days. People are beginning to question the reliability of law enforcement, especially when even simple cases are being left unsolved. The rise in antisocial behaviour, theft, and online scams has also added to the perception that crime is spiralling out of control. And not enough is being done. This shift in public safety has changed how people live. Parents are more cautious about letting their children go out alone. Small business owners are investing in private security. Neighbourhood watch groups are becoming active again. Not out of community spirit, but out of necessity. The sense of everyday security that many once took for granted is fading. When people feel they can't rely on the police or each other, trust in society begins to break down. The quiet rise in crime isn't just about statistics. It's about the growing fear creeping into daily life. Number 6. Mental health services are inaccessible. In 2025, mental health care in the UK is facing a hidden emergency. While awareness around mental well-being has grown, access to actual treatment has not kept up. NHS mental health services are stretched far beyond capacity. Waiting times for therapy, counselling, or psychiatric evaluations can last months or even over a year. Many patients are told to try apps or self-help guides while they wait, which does little for those struggling with serious issues like depression, PTSD, or eating disorders. The result? A growing population silently suffering without the support they desperately need. Young people are among the hardest hit. Rates of self-harm, suicidal thoughts, and chronic anxiety are at record levels among teenagers and university students. School counsellors are overwhelmed, and university mental health units often have waiting lists longer than academic semesters. Adults face similar roadblocks. Many are turning to private therapy, paying £60 to £100 per session, which is simply unaffordable for the majority. Even general practitioners, often the first point of contact, are under pressure and may offer little more than a rushed appointment and a prescription for antidepressants. This lack of access has real, long-term consequences. Untreated mental health issues are leading to lost jobs, broken relationships, and a spike in substance abuse. Families are watching loved ones decline while waiting for help that may never arrive. The national conversation may promote mindfulness and self-care, but without real investment in accessible, timely mental health care, it feels like empty talk. People don't need slogans. They need therapists, safe spaces, and systems that actually work. Right now, those systems are failing, and the emotional cost is devastating. Number 7. Education quality is declining. The UK's education system is struggling in 2025, and the cracks are no longer hidden. They're wide open. Across the country, schools are facing severe teacher shortages, crumbling infrastructure, and budget cuts that have stripped away essential resources. Teachers are leaving the profession in droves due to low pay, excessive workload, and lack of support. The result? Larger class sizes, fewer subject options, and exhausted educators stretched too thin to give students the attention they need. In some schools, basic materials like textbooks and art supplies are now considered a luxury. This collapse is hurting students at every level. Primary school children are falling behind in literacy and numeracy, while secondary students face disrupted learning and inconsistent grading. The government's constant shifting of curriculum standards and exam formats has created confusion and stress for both students and teachers. Meanwhile, funding for special educational needs has been slashed, leaving vulnerable pupils without proper support. Parents are being forced to step in with private tutoring, which only widens the gap between wealthier and lower income families. Beyond academics, the lack of support is damaging students' confidence and motivation. Anxiety levels are soaring, especially during exam seasons. Pupils feel they're being pushed through a system that doesn't care about their individuality or potential. University hopefuls are disillusioned, and apprenticeships are under-promoted and underfunded. Education is supposed to be a stepping stone to opportunity, but today it feels more like an obstacle course with no clear reward. The dream of a fair, high-quality education for all is fading, leaving a generation to question whether school is preparing them for life or just survival. Number 8. Social division is more visible than ever. In 2025, the UK feels more divided than united. The gap between rich and poor, urban and rural, old and young, has grown into a full-blown social chasm. Economic hardship is fueling resentment, while political instability is deepening mistrust. Heated debates over immigration, climate policies, and public funding are no longer just political, they're personal, creating tension in workplaces, schools, and even within families. Social media only amplifies the divide, turning nuanced issues into usai versus them arguments, where empathy is quickly drowned out by outrage. This division isn't just ideological, it's deeply economic. While some continue to thrive, others are being left behind entirely. Access to opportunities now depends heavily on postcode, background, and social connections. Many working-class communities feel ignored by policymakers and media alike. Meanwhile, the rise of digital elitism has made people feel more isolated than ever. The promise of equal opportunity feels increasingly like a myth, as generational wealth and class privilege determine more than hard work or talent ever could. The effects of this split are visible everywhere. Communities are more fragmented, conversations are more hostile, trust in institutions, from parliament to the police, has eroded. Even within local neighbourhoods, the sense of shared identity is weakening. People are retreating into echo chambers, both online and offline, making it harder to bridge the gap. What was once quiet discontent has turned into open frustration. The UK's greatest strength has long been its diversity and community spirit. But now, that spirit is under pressure, and the consequences of continued division are becoming impossible to ignore. Number 9. Environmental degradation is accelerating. In 2025, the effects of climate change in the UK are no longer warnings. They're daily realities. From the south coast to northern Scotland, the country is experiencing more frequent floods, heat waves, and violent storms. Last winter saw record-breaking rainfall, submerging entire towns and causing billions in damage. Drainage systems, already outdated, are unable to cope. Meanwhile, the summer brought weeks of unbearable heat, with temperatures in parts of the UK reaching over 40 degrees Celsius, triggering health emergencies, wildfires, and water shortages. For many, these events are no longer rare. They're expected. Government promises to reach net zero emissions are stalling. Green infrastructure projects have been delayed or downsized, and funding for local sustainability initiatives has been quietly slashed. Plastic pollution continues to choke rivers and coastlines, and air quality in urban areas like London and Birmingham remains dangerously poor. The UK's green transition feels more like a PR campaign than a real strategy, with environmental justice pushed aside in favour of short-term economic gains. Communities on the front lines, especially those in low-income areas, are paying the price. People are beginning to make changes where they can, installing solar panels, growing their own food, cycling more. But individual action can only go so far without systemic support. The fear is growing. Fear that homes won't be insurable, that clean air will be a luxury, and that future generations will inherit a country ill-equipped for survival. Environmental decline is no longer a distant worry. It's altering daily life, eroding stability, and threatening the very livability of the UK. If change doesn't accelerate, the nation may soon find itself dealing with consequences it can no longer reverse. Number 10. The British dream feels out of reach. In 2025, the idea of the British dream, working hard, owning a home, living securely, feels increasingly like a broken promise. For many, especially younger generations, upward mobility is no longer a realistic goal, but a fading ideal. Wages remain stagnant while the cost of living, housing, and education soars. More people are working full-time and still unable to afford even the basics. The sense that hard work leads to success is being replaced by cynicism, as people watch their efforts go unrewarded in a system that seems rigged against them. Graduates leave university burdened with tens of thousands in student debt, only to enter a job market flooded with underpaid, insecure positions. Saving for a home, starting a family, or even planning for retirement feels out of reach for an entire generation. Many young people are moving back in with parents, not by choice but out of necessity. The traditional life milestones, buying a house, settling into a career, building a future, now seem like privileges reserved for the wealthy or lucky, not achievable goals for the average citizen. This disillusionment is reshaping how people live and think. Dreams are shrinking, and ambitions are being replaced by survival strategies. The psychological toll is real. More people are reporting burnout, hopelessness, and a lack of direction. Meanwhile, older generations are frustrated too, watching pensions lose value and healthcare access decline. The promise of a better future, passed down for decades, is slipping away. What was once seen as a land of opportunity now feels like a place where you're just trying to stay afloat, and hope has become a show's commodity. What you've just seen isn't a prediction. It's the reality millions in the UK are already living. From broken systems to lost hope, these 10 brutal truths reveal a nation standing on shaky ground. And while politicians argue and headlines spin narratives, everyday people are left to carry the weight of policies that have failed them. It's easy to dismiss this as just the way things are. But for many, it's becoming too hard to survive, let alone thrive. This isn't just about numbers. It's about the erosion of stability, the collapse of promises, and the growing sense that no one is coming to fix it. Young people with dreams are watching them disintegrate. Parents are holding it together for their children, even when they have nothing left. Elderly citizens who built this country are now being left behind in systems too overwhelmed to care. But acknowledging these truths is the first step to change. If we pretend everything's fine, nothing gets better. But if we talk about it, share it, and demand better, something might shift. Maybe not overnight. But every conversation matters. And that's why we made this video. To spark one of those conversations. Because staying silent means staying stuck. Now we'd love to hear from you. Which of these issues hit you hardest? Have you experienced any of these challenges yourself? Drop your thoughts below. Your story might be the one that helps someone else feel seen. If this opened your eyes, check out our previous video. It dives even deeper into the daily struggles Brits are facing right now. We pour everything into creating these videos. If you found value here, support us with one click. Subscribe to the channel, and let's keep this conversation alive.